Hello and welcome to this new video. This time we're going to be looking at the heavy body attribute. This ability to utilize our mass in as an efficient way as possible and to produce interesting effects whenever we use this body with a partner. The heavy body attribute is the acute control and manipulation of our own body mass. In essence, it is our ability to utilize our mass in as efficient way as possible to create the maximum impression of weight when we're doing movements in the martial arts. Many people who have trained with very good grapplers, for instance, will understand what the heavy body feels like. It's when somebody who may be quite small feels extraordinarily heavy when they're on top of you training on the ground, or when you're interacting with them in standing grappling, you're trying to throw them around but they feel like they're sunk and rooted to the spot. Similarly, if you have ever interacted with a very good striker, quite a lot of them have developed what some people call heavy hands, and this is again a facet of that heavy body attribute. One of the best ways to describe the feeling of the heavy body and to point us towards the way in which we achieve it is to think of the person who has maybe fainted or is unconscious. When someone is unconscious and they have no tension at all in their body, when you go to lift them up off the ground, they feel much heavier than they appear. Certainly when I was working in nightclub security, I had plenty of opportunity to pick people up who were either severely drunk or had been knocked out in some way or another. And almost every time it took multiple doormen to try and lift these people off the ground, simply because they were a bag of weight that didn't have any tension in it that you could hold on to. And that points us in the right direction for the way in which the heavy body is trained. We tend to try to create power and strength through contraction and tensions, and certainly those things, contraction of muscle and development of strength, create a lot of power. But when we're looking at the heavy body attribute, we're actually trying to do the opposite. Just like that unconscious person who is a bag of weight, who is seems much heavier than they are, if we can create controlled and precise release of tension in the body, we will be able to utilize our mass. It becomes much more available because gravity acting on that limb, let's say, is not stopped by muscles holding it up. So when we're looking at how to train the heavy body attribute, we're looking at ways in which we can enact release in the body. So it is quite foreign to most people who do strength and conditioning work. The work in the heavy body can seem quite abstract because you're not actually looking at contraction as a primary goal. We're looking at release as a primary goal. The ability to fall like a stone or like a lead weight dropping onto something. And even in a few inches, if you drop, my weight's about 82 kilos. If I drop 82 kilos in a few inches, it creates a huge amount of power. The way that we achieve this is through various methods that either teach the body to release through targeted and focused attention, or trick the body to release by making other areas of the body tense so that we can grab tension that's held in a position that we can't access, or by enacting release through our natural processes like the breathing cycle. Essentially what we're doing as we do these different exercises is we are trying to train the off switch in the muscles. Now we often train this on switch, the switch that makes us contract, but it's very unusual for us to focus on actually the opposite side to that coin, the off switch. But that's what gives us this access to this softness that we feel in the unconscious person, this heaviness that naturally occurs as softness rises. This heaviness gives us an ability to maximize the downwards direction in the body. And this downwards direction leads us to be more rooted in our feet, to be able to access much greater levels of pressure in ground fighting, to access falling and sinking, stepping, and to access heavy strikes as we drop the weight of the limb driven by the body into the partner. It really is a shocking level of power when you encounter someone with heaviness. And many of the top martial artists that I met had this skill in abundance. They could touch from a few inches away, but it felt like a sledgehammer. And that is the essence of the way that the heavy body feels when you're interacting with it. Now, not only that, but HeavyBody is very, very good for health practices, because many of us walk around holding tensions in our body that we're not even aware of. This is due to the way that we work quite often. We may be sat at desks or doing manual labour jobs or any other sort of job where we're set in position or we're lifting heavy weights. These things can take their toll on our body in the form of habitual tension that is formed so that our body can maintain that posture for many hours a day. Now, these tensions that we build in our body may be quite hard to resolve, and certainly you can have massages, you can stretch, but quite often those areas of tension remain inaccessible to us. And the HeavyBody training method actually gives us some impression about where those problems are, and then gives us solutions in the form of specific exercises to resolve them. Once we've resolved all these tensions in the body, we begin to move with much more freedom and fluidity. We start to feel like our posture is not set in position. We have more mobility in the spine and the shoulders. And we generally, the health of all of the joints of the body starts to increase as they become freer. That freedom comes from lack of tension binding the joint and holding them closed. Many people that train the HeavyBody on a regular basis have noticed this effect of joint health appearing from the various methods. This release of tension and the resolution of problems in the body is actually why we put the HeavyBody module at the start of the run of the different 6 bodies. Without having this resolution of tension in the body, we can end up starting our journey through martial body training with postural deficiencies or strange skews in our bodies. Will end up compounding and getting worse and worse as we move through towards the later stages of training. So resolving this tension early is extremely important, and that's why the HeavyBody is placed at the forefront of martial body training. This is something that we start with, no matter how much we've trained and no matter how many different arts we've worked our way through. The HeavyBody will give us this release from tension that we require not only to fuel powerful downward martial movements and to bring about health in the body, but it also sets the ground for the later stages of training and gives us an impression about where tension is held and how to resolve it. If you're interested in training in HeavyBody methods, you can do so at MartialBody.com, where we now have 2 courses on the HeavyBody. The first one, HeavyBody Foundations, and the second one, HB2, which is an intermediate level course.